we've come full circle today because the first time I spoke to anybody, it was you. How long ago was that? 3, 4, 5 months? September? I can't even remember. It was a long time ago in this endless winter of in a tent, discontent. And I'm going to speak to you. It's going to go out tomorrow. So let's make no mistakes because I have no time to edit this.
Oh, I'll try.
No pressure, no pressure, no pressure. We were talking about your career, and the last time we spoke, we talked about, remind me, there was football. Dorking went down, didn't they?
We have done, yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Are you still there? Are you still working with them?
Oh,
Not
yeah,
still
sure.
there here, but
I've got nothing to do till the pre-season. So
oh,
I'm for hire if anybody needs me.
okay.
Anything to catch.
What was it expected? I mean, was it a bit of a dream that they stayed up last year?
Well, put it this way, Dorking are a semi-pro. They're not full-time. You know, we've got brickies and accountants and this, that, and the other.
Mm-hmm.
So unfortunately, and I mean, the plan is in the next few years to go full-time. But at the moment, it's not going to happen. But Dorking were, how can I explain it? Somewhat of a fairy tale club, you know. They got promoted to the National League, and it was fantastic. And the full-time clubs really thought that Dorking shouldn't have been there.
Just because they're semi-professional.
Yeah, so I mean, they paid their dues, and the last third of the season. Well, it was a match a couple of months ago. The leaders, Chesterfield, who are going up, came down to Little Dorking, and we beat them 4-1.
Was this after they'd already been promoted, or before?
This was pretty much. I mean, they just needed one more match to play and just to secure the promotion. But this was live on TV. Little Dorking live on TV beat the leaders 4-1, and what an afternoon! And I saw Mark White the next match, because I was doing another match. I was doing a Dorking women's match. And he had a huge smile on his face. He said, "Did you get good pictures yesterday? And you couldn't fail. You could not fail."
One of the conversations I had was with a bloke in Lincoln, Phil Gidman. And one of the things we were wondering was, how is it possible for a team to beat the league leaders 4-1, but then to be so rubbish in so many other games? Is it just adrenaline, or do you think it's something else?
I'm not going to speak on behalf of the team because I'm merely the photographer. But throughout the season, we've had a lot of injuries, so we don't have pick of the same players for the entire season because people get injured, people get kicked, people break things, the ACLs go, this, that, and the other. So they did what they could to pick the best teams that were available out of the men that were available. I thought they did really well. You know, you can't always be the fairy tale team every year, and this is the first relegation they've had since 1999.
Why do we always talk about brickies and accountants? You know, we don't talk about endoscopy technicians and fishmongers, as I.
Yeah, I think because they train on a Tuesday and a Thursday and they play on a Saturday, that leaves Monday, Wednesday, and Friday for work. And I don't know many industries, other than being self-employed or having a really good boss, who would allow you that amount of time off.
Right, you gave me three things that we were going to talk about today, always totally disconnected one from the other. So let me throw the first one into the ring.
Oh, no, do I need to
go on? Drink your Valium.
So yeah, please.
Monty Python. What's the story?
I was working for. I started working. My first job was working in theatre on the lighting crew of a big show. And I was 21. I think it was 1983, 84.
Everybody's calculating your age at the moment.
I know. No. That's for the quiz at the end of it. I found myself working for a very small lighting hire company in Berrylands, which is an enclave of Surbiton in Surrey. And they hired lighting equipment to theatres, to conferences, to trade shows, to TV, to film, to something or other. And I had been employed because of my knowledge of theatre lighting. And one job came in, and at the time, film lighting was all done by Lee Electrics, who used to be based in Wembley. So in the 70s and 80s, not a film was made without Lee Electrics appearing on the roller at the end. So my boss said there's a job to come up at Elstree Studios for a fortnight through Lee Electrics, and I don't know which one of you to send. He was going to send me or a colleague of mine, John. And John, bless him, who died a few years later, he was always first choice. Now, my boss didn't tell me it was 2 weeks working on Monty Python's Meaning of Life, their very last feature film. But as time went by, he dropped a couple of subtle hints. And he said, "No, you like Monty Python, don't you?" I said, "Yes, I do." And he said, "Well, this is to work on a film they're making at Elstree." And of course, I need to go thermometer just went sky high. I've got to. I have to. So Mark, the boss, he was just mucking around with me. And of course, he knew he was going to give me the job. And he packed me off to Elstree for 2 weeks. And I was given lodgings at the YMCA in Welwyn Garden City. And that's a whole new.
That sounds like a prog rock album title.
You couldn't bring any food in. The place shut its doors at 10 at night.
Wow.
So I went up to Elstree to operate the lighting desk. If you remember, I used to work in theatre.
That's right.
So, I walked in, and I was 21. I was very green, and this huge set, and they'd started building it. Now, if you've ever seen Monty Python's Meaning of Life, people are now reaching for their remote controls. The very last scene, it's the restaurant in heaven, and it's not the last scene, but it is basically pretty much the last scene.
Is this the one with the big fat guy who explodes?
Yeah, the fat guy explodes earlier in the film, and
Mr. Creosote, yeah,
Mr. Creosote, and he's there on his own table with all his guts hanging out, an exposed rib cage, etc. Spoiler alert. Anyway, so so everyone who's died during the film, they're in the restaurant. So I walked into this enormous set at Elstree, and they're just building it. And on three sides, on the left, the back, and the right-hand wall, it's all black draped from floor to ceiling. And we're talking, I don't know, 40 feet high. And as it was the restaurant in heaven, we have to install the stars. We have to build the background. So over the first weekend, with electricians there from Lee Electrics, who are on double bubble because they're working weekends, and I'm not, we get boxes of double bubble, as we used to call it.
Bubble, that's nice.
We have boxes of Christmas tree lights, a screwdriver, and a roll of gaffer tape.
And that's
so
it.
You take Christmas tree lights under your arm, and you climb the scaffolding, and you get to the area you're working, and you push the screwdriver through this perfectly good black material. Then you push a Christmas tree light, and you put a bit of tape on the back, and you move along and do it again. So over 2 days, Saturday and Sunday, there are thousands of sets of lights, and all the cables are hanging down. And we managed to figure out a way of getting all the cables around to where I was working. I mean, this is making extension cables after extension cables this end, to where I was working, and we plugged the stars into my lighting dimmers. So on the lighting desk,
is this going to burn down?
Hey?
I'm expecting the whole thing to burn down here.
No,
But
not at
the lights of the car. No, go on.
all. So I can, with on the faders on the lighting desk, I can have the stars flickering in different parts of the sky, and they switch the lights off of the studio, of the set, and everyone was just told to stop for 5 minutes as they were still building the set. And the lights came up, and I'm just making the stars flicker. And all these old lighting boys who spent their entire lifetime in the cinema are going, ooh, like a fireworks display. They're loving it. So then we had to install other lights, which are above the stage and by the orchestra. So when you see the final scene and the orchestra coming up from out of the floor and the lights coming up, that's me going,
oh.
And then when you don't see it so much on TV now, because it's, I don't think that the jump from film to video is very clear. But you do see the stars flickering, and that's me.
The Mr. Creosote scene seems very, very similar to a scene in Magical Mystery Tour where John Lennon's shoveling spaghetti onto this plump lady's plate. So did you meet Monty Python?
No.
Oh, that's nice.
I saw them.
They didn't come and say hello, thanks for the lights or something.
No, Graham Chapman would sit, because I was, again, when you look at the film, there's a huge TV set on the right-hand side. My operating area was behind that, which is also behind the Black Drake. But Graham Chapman would come and sit just behind me.
Oh.
But no, I just learned to keep my mouth shut and get on with the job.
Because they were so famous, or because they were a bit off with you, or?
No, not at all. You just accepted them for who they were, and you don't go up and chat to them because they've got a job of work to do. They're concentrating on what they need to do, and I'm concentrating on what I need to do. And at 21, that's the lesson I learned from that one.
Right. Now, the next word on the list, and I don't know if it's the or without the, was Queen.
Oh, God.
Is it both?
So, I mean, how I got to Queen from there was like the most extraordinary game of chess.
Three-dimensional chess.
Yeah, because a few years later, I found myself working with a giant TV screen.
Was it Live Aid, maybe? Or something?
I left lighting and I went into video. There was a company in Chessington called Starvision, just in Surrey, not near the zoo, but not far.
You could literally say the name of any town. You could even make them up because I don't know where any of these places are. You know?
Okay, well, I'll remember that going forward. So they had a giant TV screen, 50 square meters.
Wow.
22 tons. Because you look at giant TV screens now, and there's a light feather. And I know some screen operators who used to operate the Starvision with me. So Starvision went out, came on the back of a lorry. And we got some fantastic gigs.
So it was like it was all folded up and you had to unfold it.
What it did, if you can imagine, here we go. You can imagine it's traveling on the back of a truck, right?
Okay.
The top section using hydraulics, which is magic as far as I'm concerned. The top section would do this, open up, right?
Okay, right.
So once it's opened up, that's the screen. But to travel, it would fold in half, tarpaulin over it, and drive it away.
Chessington.
The year before had been Live Aid. That was 84. So at Live Aid, there were two screens, one either side of the stage. And those screens were Mitsubishi. Sorry, I can't say Mitsubishi. The Diamond Vision. I'm reeling all this out for those people who really want to do, an internet search. So Mitsubishi supplied two Diamond Vision screens. And Starvision was now the competition. And Starvision got Queen at Wembley. And this is the old Wembley, the old with the white towers, the proper Wembley, as far as
I was there.
Yeah. And we drove it up there on the shows were Friday and Saturday nights. So we drove it up there on a Thursday. We drove it up on the Wednesday night. I can't remember. We got it in overnight. I think it was probably whatever. I'm rambling.
So I'm not editing this, so you're just going to look like a rambling person.
I look a big enough idiot as it is. So we drove it up to Wembley, and a crane took it off the trailer and put it on just a set of metal skates, and we ended up through the players' tunnel,
right,
and out into the stadium area, where another crane picked it up, put it on the back of the lorry, drove it round to where it needed to be. And again, all available on YouTube. The screen's going to be lifted right above the stage and put on a set of RSJs.
What's an RSJ?
RSJ, I don't remember what it's a rigid joint, or no, it's a huge steel joist.
Okay.
So the stage had been built with the Star Vision in mind.
Mm-hmm.
All the lights were hanging off it, and there were speakers hanging off it, this, that, and the other. At the very top, there were 2 RSJs, and the Star Vision would sit on top, and we'd bolt it to that, and then open it up. And I think we got it up there at about 1 o'clock in the morning. Now, that night, Queen were playing up in Newcastle, I think.
Mm-hmm. I know Newcastle.
Fine.
Thank you. Place I know.
Queen had been playing at Newcastle, and we got the screen on top of the stage. And for anybody who wants to look at the extras in the Queen live at Wembley, you will see this whole process, and you'll see me with a
with a big what? Big beard.
Ginger beard, yes.
Big ginger beard.
I thought that was my first foray into facial hair. I wish I'd have listened to what I was being told then. Anyway, we got it on top of the Wembley Stadium. We plugged it in, and we were about to go for the opening, right? So it's 1 o'clock in the morning, and we go, and we start opening the screen like this, and it gets to about there, because the boss is standing next to us with a big piece of wood, and we're looking, because Wembley's got this roof that does that all the way around.
That's right.
Corrugated metal. And it's the rain roof, because the rain runs off it and drops down. And as the screen was opening up, it was about to touch the roof. And we got it within, I think, probably about 2 feet. And there was this big red button. And it was obvious that the screen was not going to open. So someone rang the Queen production office in Newcastle, and they were still doing the get out. They were folding everything up, bringing it down to London. We got a problem. The measurements were all wrong. So basically what happened, the architect or the designer got it completely wrong. And Wembley's measurements, they said the roof is so wide, this, that, and the other. Their measurements were wrong. The architect got it wrong. So we had to fold the screen back down, bring it down onto the ground at the bottom, open it up, and the crane driver, who's very good at working out weights, with the screen in the open position, and we'd never done it, picked it up and put it on top of the stage in the open position.
Right.
And then on the Saturday night after the show, we left it open. The same crane driver managed to sort out his rigging, and we brought it down open and then closed it when it was on the ground.
So we can see you on that video.
You can see us on the video. What you don't see is the major when everybody got it wrong and we had to bring the screen down again.
So you see it kind of doing this, but then it cuts to another scene.
You don't see any opening at all. What you see, you see it arriving on the back of the truck at night. And then Oxford Scientific Films were there doing this time lapse, and you see the whole thing, the whole stage and everything being built. It's extraordinary.
So we see you for about half a second in a time lapse, or is there are you this big on the screen?
About 20, 25 seconds.
Oh, well.
The truck arriving,
smoking a fag in Wembley.
It's up there and it's open and it's flashing Star Vision, and you see a set of colour bars. And for the show, both shows, I was up by the screen. And there were 80,000 people at both shows. And when you're part of a crowd and you're shouting your approval at an artiste, that's one thing. But when you're on the receiving end, so I would stick my head when they would start Radio Gaga, which was fantastic, and 80,000 people joining in. I'd stick my head round the screen, and you'd listen to this noise coming at you from 80,000 people. It was quite extraordinary. Quite extraordinary.
And this is why you're deaf.
Pardon?
No.
So, give me lines like that, Jim, I'm going to jump at him.
Well, I'm feeding it. The next one on the list, which is a lot less amusing, obviously, is Bosnia.
Oh, yeah.
So how do you go from Freddie Mercury, from Mr. Creosote to Freddie Mercury
another
to
one
Bosnia?
of these very strange games of chess. So that was 86.
They sent you to Bosnia because you messed up the screen thing.
That's right. You're such a disappointment. Guess where we're sending it? No, I had then moved from. Sorry, I was looking for the.
You've got another prop. You've got a Bosnia prop there.
No. I've got lots of photographs.
Okay.
I then moved into proper video, television. And I got a job in 1999. No, 1989.
I was going to say, yeah, because we met in 99-ish, didn't we? So,
yeah. So 1989, 1990, I started working for a facility in Westminster. Now, I'd been working with the screen people for a while, and a colleague of mine said, "Oh, because you can do this, that, and the other. There's a company in London who'd like to, I think you got on well with." I'd never worked in television, so I went up and I met this company, and they taught me television for 2 years, and from there I went to Sky. And Sky said, this was, the Bosnian conflict started in 1991, I think, though I'm expecting postcards.
Well, any reaction would be nice. Yeah, so.
Yes, it would be.
Just feel free to just say things which are completely untrue. It was more or less just after the split up of the Soviet Union, so roundabout. Right. It was more or less just after the split of the Soviet Union, love. So it's probably round about that.
Very true. Very true. You see, now you put me off my stroke. Anyway.
So Sky.
I'm at Sky, and I'm sitting in my edit suite because I was editing at Sky. And my boss came into me and he said, because Bosnia, everyone wanted to go to Bosnia, but only few were chosen, shall I say. My boss came in and said, would you like to go? Now, it was a month. You go in for a month and then you come home. I thought, yeah, why not? Why not? So I had to fly out alone because I had to take all this equipment with me, and it cost £800. This was 1993. And Sky is a hop and a jump from Heathrow Airport. So when you come back, no taxi driver wants to take you to Osterley because it's literally 5 minutes run. So anyway, I got a Sky sorted out a taxi for me to go to Heathrow.
When you said £800, are we talking price or weight?
We're talking price.
Okay, because that'd be not right.
At the time, I mean, now you can edit on a laptop. In those days, there were tapes, so everything was mechanical. You had a playing machine, you had a record machine, and you had two color monitors, a small sound desk, and a lit mic, and loads of cables. And everything was in flight cases. So I checked in at Heathrow with who's it? I think Lufthansa. I was flying from London to Frankfurt, change at Frankfurt for Zagreb, and then Zagreb to Split. Now you can do London to Split without an issue. And I checked in, and they said, "Oh, it'll be £800, please." And they'd given me a company Amex card.
Oh, nice.
Which I flashed with aplomb, and everything was paid. And
Sorry,
all these,
Lord,
you remember the old when you used to check in and you could hear your luggage disappearing down the mechanical,
getting smashed up.
Oh yeah, and I could hear all this kit, this heavy stuff, just rolling down the conveyor belt of hell.
I remember taking a plane with Howell once, and he only took the plane once because of this. The harp, you remember the harp, and the harp was in a bag with big things on it that said fragile, and we watched it kind of disappear. And the guy who put the fragile thing said something like, "They're going to have a great time with that because you put the fragile sticker on. This is Manchester Airport." He hated me for forever after that. Anyway, there was nothing wrong with it. Back to the story. So, if the stuff has gone through.
The stuff has gone through, and the next time I'm going to see it is at Split. And at Split Airport in 1993 was a garden shed. It was a tiny little place, and it was full of taxi drivers who were completely mental, and men in uniforms with automatic weapons who were smoking all over the place. So then I was met by the producer, a Croat, and I was taken to Hotel Split. I'd love to have been there for the naming ceremony of that one. And I met the crew. I met the crew I was traveling to Bosnia with. And the next day, we had to drive to a place called Gornji Vakuf, which used to be a British battalion, and we had to sit there and wait for our escort. And we drove into the center of Bosnia. And my first trip, it took us 2 days to get there. And I was, and this is a whole other story, but basically it was a refugee camp in the mountains. It was very cold, and it was an aid station, so they had a kitchen there. And there was a town about, I want to say 25 kilometers away, called Gorazde. And Gorazde was an enclave. The Serbs had it surrounded. Nothing went in or out. And the idea was to get the Sky team, they would walk overnight with guides into Gorazde, and they'd film there for a week or 10 days. And I would stay in the mountains with my colleague next to the aid station, and people every night would walk out of Gorazde. Now, they'd either get to the aid station at 6 o'clock in the morning, have something to eat, and carry on walking into Bosnia. Or they'd have something to eat, pick up some supplies, rice, a few vegetables, very dodgy looking meat, and then wait for the guides the next night to take them back into Gorazde. So there was a to and fro of people walking in and out just to pick up food supplies. Now, these people were, let's go back to the accountants and the carpenters and this, that, and the other. They didn't have mountaineering equipment. So they walked overnight in pitch black. And everyone followed everyone else. And there were guides every few meters or so. So the Sky team walked in overnight from the base camp at Grebak into Gorazde. And every other day, a mule would appear or a guide would appear. And the owner of the mule would knock on our tent, because we had a Sky News sticker on it, and would hand us a box. And we, of course, would give them something for their trouble. And in the box would be the tapes with all the news reports, a piece of paper with instructions. And I would then go and start the generator that we'd brought, power up the kit, and sit there, and we'd watch the tapes and look at the instruction. I would then say, "Thank you, I'll get on with this." And I would then start editing the piece. When the piece was finished, we'd walk it down our side of the mountain, kind of, and up, partially up the side of the other one where the satellite dish was. Because the satellite, we were under trees. And the satellite, of course, needs a clear view of the sky. So there was a Hungarian and a Brit engineer sleeping in a van next to their satellite dish, and they were part of our crew. So I'd
sounds like the Dorking football team.
I'd walk the tape down my side of the mountain and partially up another one onto a ledge where they'd start their generator and they'd fire the report to Sky in Osterley and also to CBS in New York.
Okay.
And it was an extraordinary job. And I think if there's one job that defines you and your career, that's it. There's nothing else. Nothing's going to top that.
How did that define you? What did that kind of add to you mentally or morally?
I hated the idea of war, and I didn't like. Am I on Jim at the moment? Is that right?
We'll speak to her next time.
Yes, she's got a lot to say. I started to understand war because that war there were three sides fighting each other. I started to understand appreciation because I came back to England and I went to my local pub and I'd seen these poor people suffering. Some people walking backwards and forwards from garage day to Grobak to pick up food supplies. People they've just given up and they've left garage day and they've got to the food station and they've had some sleep and they're just going to carry on walking. And there was snow everywhere. And these people are walking in walking shoes, normal office walking shoes. They didn't have mountaineering kit. We had all the kit. And I got to my local pub and there was someone complaining about not being able to go on holiday because of this, that, and the other. And I thought, I didn't say anything.
I didn't punch him in the face.
What is absolute hell? And here you are, you've got everything and you're complaining about it. So the lesson I learned from that was just don't complain. Be happy with what you've got. So anyway, a month after I was home, I said to my boss at Sky, I said, can I go back?
Oh.
I went, yeah, sure. So I went back. And I went back. And I went back. So I saw Bosnia in in rain, in snow, in hot weather, in storms. I saw it across all the seasons. And I saw the war from different parts in the country. And I still had the same thing. Every time I came back, it was still a case of, you know what, be happy with what you've got and don't complain because there are people far worse off.
I can't but agree with the first sentiment, but Stuart McAlister is not going to tell me that he's never complained. I'm sure mutual complaining has been a great part of our relationship.
I mean, I complained about being on this blasted thing, didn't I? But no, it's of course I've complained, but then I've kind of checked myself. It is when you see it as close as an opportunity. Yes, it was an opportunity. It taught me a life lesson. I'm looking at the war in Ukraine, and I'm looking at what's going on in the Gaza Strip at the moment, and Iran. And I must admit, I mean, that's a completely different podcast. That is.
Yes, we're not going to have that conversation today.
Exactly.
From a journalist or TV point of view, if you were that age today, you would almost certainly be in Ukraine, but I don't think any press can go near Gaza because it's so absolutely lethal.
Controlled. It's all being controlled.
But it's just it's too dangerous for anybody, basically.
Yeah. But even in I watched the early days of the Ukraine war. Sky did some really good work. Panorama did some even better work. Yeah. But the thing is, with that war, there are two sides, and we know who the aggressors are, and we know who the good guys are. The Bosnian war, we kind of knew who the aggressors were, but there were two other, not saying neutral, were two other sides who weren't as aggressive. And of course, the Serbs had the Russians behind them. There was one point in Bosnia when the Russian troops. Oh, it was in Kosovo. Oh no, I'm sorry, I'm rambling.
Kosovo. Yeah, don't ramble. We could.
Kosovo was 99. So
the third interview will be rambling.
The Russian troops in Kosovo in 99 and 2000 who'd run out of food, and they had to go to the Americans to ask for some food.
That just doesn't surprise me. We'll make a hearty goodbye so that I can stop the camera and it doesn't cut us off halfway through. One of the things that I wanted to ask you the next time we speak, so plenty of time to talk about it, which it kind of connects with. Sorry. Which kind of connects in with what you were saying is, how was the UK different when you came back this time, after living in France for years, than it was when you left? And think about that, because that doesn't mean how has your life been different necessarily, but just, is it still the same country? Does it feel like the same place, or are there some things which are fundamentally different? And that's what we'll talk about next time.
Fair enough.
Okay. Mr. Stuart McAlister, thank you.
Thank you, Jim.